ready to rock? You ready to roll? I'm checking the clock. Just got in my zone. You ready to rock? You ready to rock? You ready to roll? You ready to roll? I'm checking the clock. I'm checking the clock. Just got in my zone. Just got in my zone.
Coming out to play now, opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play, I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me, then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now, opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play, I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me, then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
From the High Bank Super Speedway of Daytona, we go to the High Bank short track of the Dover Motor Speedway. The RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series roars on to the northeast, and we want to welcome you to RaceSpotTV's coverage of the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series. It's the second round of action from the newly named Dover Motor Speedway. I'm your host, Joshua Lee, and joining me in the booth tonight is Nolan Rempel, and unfortunately, Terry Radford couldn't be here with us. We wish him the best, and Evan Pasoko on his way down to Southwest Florida at the current moment on an airplane, so he is unfortunately not able to join us for broadcast either. But Nolan, tonight we're going racing from the Dover Motor Speedway, which new name, same old track. It is very old, concrete surface, chews up the tires, and those high banks and high speeds as well. It's a recipe for some great racing.
Oh, it absolutely is, and you know that we're going to be having some great racing here tonight. Dover Motor Speedway has always been known as one of the most technical racetracks you can get out there on the NASCAR circuit. It is very one-line, this 1 mile concrete mile, and you know that we're going to be in for some very fun racing action as we get set to go racing for 125 laps from Denver.
We take a look at the schedule at the current moment. Of course, Nashville Super Speedway coming up very, very soon, but we've also got on the calendar Nashville Super Speedway next, then Phoenix Raceway, Worldwide Technology Raceway, otherwise known as Gateway, the traditional Winter Series stop at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, then to New Hampshire, then finishing off at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on January the 23rd. But only 8 rounds statistically, Nolan. We talked about it last week in Daytona. Statistically, it is a 10 race calendar. You have a lot more time to develop the storylines, to develop the championship. Not so much here in this season of the Winter Series. You gotta be on your game. And coming out of Daytona, it was Connor Horn in that fantastic mono-e-mono finish, coming to the start-finish line. Tom Wetmore, Jaron Winemaster, Agnell Phillip, and Jason Staney rounding out the top 5. But you look at this top 10, the top 10 finishers from Daytona, and there's still a lot of names that need to get some points on the board, especially some quick ones that we just saw in practice.
And I think now that we're at a bit of a slower track that allows for more of the strategies to play out and driver skill to prepare that a little bit more, we're going to be seeing some of those quicker drivers making their way up towards the front of the field. Of course, you had the race over at Daytona just 1 week ago, but it was honestly almost a bit of a crapshoot at the end. I mean, you had that photo finish between 2 drivers, the only 2 to break clear of a massive pileup in turn number 1 as they came down to the start-finish line. Connor Horn, of course, took that W over the likes of Tom Wetmore, but now we'll be seeing if Connor Horn can follow through with some of that momentum and see if he can maintain that points lead by the end of the night.
That momentum is a great thing to mention because that's really what he has now coming into tonight's race from Dover, is a lot of momentum. Joseph Tyson, the 5, comes across the line to complete his lap of qualifying, or his first one, I should say, and comes across the line to go P15 at the current moment. Jaron Winemaster, fastest one on the board right now. Michael Araya pulls it into the pits from 4th. Cody Harris is also on the track, looking for a quick time as he works his way down the back straightaway and into turns 3 and 4. What can Cody Harris do? Another driver that great finishes in the Cup Series, a good finish last week at Daytona, but just looking for a little bit more here in round number 2 of the Winter Series.
Already 24 plus drivers have set times for us here tonight. There's a grand total of 34 that are getting set to do battle around the Monster Mile, and we're going to take a look at the likes of Malik Ray, who's firing it off at turn number 4 to cross the start finish line. He will be starting his opening lap here tonight as he's got 1 of 2 to get himself sorted at just over 2 minutes to do so. Still has to beat that pole time though, set by defending Cup Series champion Agnell Phillip of a 23.426.
He'll go to try and beat that quick time as he goes off of turn number 4. Be careful not to hit the wall, and he gets out of the gas, tries to lock it down to redo, but he crosses the start finish line, Nolan. That is going to be qualifying over for Malik Ray, or at least that first lap. He might be able to get one more in, but I don't believe he will be able to with only 2 laps of qualifying. No, he won't. That'll be qualifying over for Malik Ray, and the fastest driver in practice is going to start P28 on the grid right now.
You can tell that Malik Ray was going to try to get himself locked down so he didn't have to take that second lap, get a good run up, but it just didn't pan out for him as he found himself now stuck a little bit further down the order as a result, and not at all the start that I think Malik Ray wanted to have. He's got a lot of work ahead of him. No other cars on the racetrack for the time being, so I have a feeling a lot of the guys over here are going to be having themselves a nice, quiet night as the event goes along, and it should be a fun evening, I think, for some of these drivers, and I think what will be interesting is to see, will we be getting that classic Dover big one early on, or will it be coming from a bit later on in the race? There's usually at least one somewhere along the line.
And I think it's worth mentioning, this is also going to be one of the shortest tracks that we go to on the calendar. Of course, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, pretty close, but that's the only kind of short track-like track that we're going to have on the calendar. Gateway is kind of a hybrid short track intermediate. Of course, you have Phoenix Raceway, which is another one of those short track intermediate hybrids. Nashville Super Speedway, same thing, short track intermediate hybrid. This is really kind of the classic short track racing that we've made popular by Bristol and made popular by a lot of the high-speed short tracks that came to be in the NASCAR world in the late 2000s. So now at this point on the calendar, these drivers have a unique challenge here at Dover that they're really not going to face for the remainder of the year. Of course, you've got the challenges of the intermediates like Nashville. You can extend that to Las Vegas at the end of the year, but this is a very unique challenge these drivers are going to have to face.
Dover, I've said it before, I'll say it again. It is one of the most unique tracks you can get out there in terms of both challenge and speed. It's one of the only all-concrete racetracks on the NASCAR calendar as of today, and you can really tell by just how pale that racing surface looks in comparison to the asphalt that's down on the apron that you would typically see at tracks like Kentucky, Kansas, Las Vegas, Atlanta, and more. But also, take a look at the banking. That's what also makes this track unique. It is so heavily banked all the way around the entire racetrack. In fact, it's so far banked on the front and back stretches, you honestly get less banking at some 1.5 miles over at some of the straightaway bankings that you can get from here at Dover. Makes it a self-cleaning racetrack, meaning if there's going to be a car that finds itself crashing, usually more often than not, it's better to keep it pinned up to the outside wall.
Field taking to the track for the short warm-up here. We were not making our way into the set heat race because we did have less than 40 drivers take to the qualifying, so we'll go through this really quick 1-minute warm-up and then get ready to take the starting grid with our field of drivers north of 35 strong. As the clock expires on warm-up, we get ready to go racing from iRacing's virtual Dover Motor Speedway, and we'll take a look at the starting grid. 34 drivers ready to take to the grid, and Agnell Phillip will be on the pole with Jaron Weinmaster starting in P2. Andrew Phipps, Zach Roethlisberger, Cody Harris, and Latero Lamperti rounding out the top 6. Nolan.
7th place holds the likes of Jason Stenney with Ryan Dunkelberger down in 8th. Michael O'Reilly sits in 9th with Sam Vieto bringing up the top 10. The Machine is in 11th with Ross Cato back in 12th.
13th goes to Grant Davis, Joseph Tice 14th, Corey Blevins and Josh Ball going to share the 15th and 16th spots on the grid. Jeremy Miller and Braden Whitaker round out the top 18.
For there you've got Thomas George in 19th with Paul Bergoli in 20th place. Bonazza Major is 21st, Brandon Fetter plays 22nd, Eric Papineau is back at 23rd with Sean Kalist in 24th.
New in Flores is going to be 25th, Tom Morano 26th, Mike Kaczynski in 27th, right to the inside of the driver that was the fastest in practice, did not have qualifying go the way that he wanted. Malik Ray starts P28 on the field, and the last driver to take time in qualifying. Connor Horn and James Ross through the top 30, Harry Grindell, Steve Durham, Steve Tucker, and Chris Edwards going to round out the field of drivers as we get ready to go racing from iRacing's virtual Dover Motor Speedway. 15th of May in Sim, just around afternoon time with 71 degrees in the air, 108 on the track temp, making for a very, very hot concrete surface here in Dover. Nolan, this is going to be a very, very interesting race, and I think for 125 laps we're going to see a lot of different strategies.
Dover is always one of those strategy tracks. It is such a difficult challenge to make a pass here unless somebody makes a mistake. Once you get deeper to the race and once everybody single files out, so you're going to want to get yourself those strategies in mind early on and then hope that you don't have some unopportune cautions falling your way to spoil the party there.
We're glad you're with us here on RaceSpotTV for round number 2 of the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series. As pace car makes its way into the safety of pit lane, Agnell Phillip, reigning full throttle Cup Series champion, will lead the field into the Geico restart zone, and the green flag is in the air. Round 2 of the Winter Series is green from the Monster Mile. champ controls the field at the front of the pack. Agnell Phillip sets the pace early on with Jaron Winemaster and Andrew Phipps through to the podium. But back from there, a little bit of side-by-side between Harris and to the outside. That looks to be Jason Staney trying to fight from the back. But up on the outside, that's the 18, Orion Dunkelberger looking for a spot on Harris. You gotta be careful on the outside line here at Dover, Nolan. Just like that, he almost slammed the wall.
And a little bit of a rebound and response from Cody Harris as Harris scrambled down low to avoid running into the side of Dunkelberger. Dunkelberger holding the high side. Still down the back straightaway. Here comes Sheen making it, trying to go for 3, and he's going to dive it up the inside of the 28 into turn number 3. Liam Sheen is up to 7th.
That's a big move from the returning driver to Real Sim Racing Cup Series action. Liam Sheen in the 0-2, diving into the inside of Harris. Now he'll go confidently in his Chevy Camaro to the inside of Ryan Dunkelberger for P6. The 18 running about a lane up from the inside line right now. Nolan, a very interesting strategy and running about in the middle of the racetrack. Statistically, Dover, we've seen inside dominant track, but the 18's making it work up top. He goes to 5th as Liam Sheen almost takes it 3 wide heading into turn 1, but he gets that nose to the inside of Lamperti to go into the top 6.
Liam Sheen on the hunt. He's got the short run pace. He's got to be careful not to burn up those right sides because that's going to see him tumbling down the order then later on in the race. Dunkelberger sits just up the road from him in the top 5, and he's going to be looking to break into that 5th position. Zach Roethlisberger going a bit defensive into turn numbers 1 and 2 that time by. Sheen's going to poke to the inside of Dunkelberger. Contact! Dunkelberger up the hill, just keeps it out of the outside wall while the field scrambles to avoid him.
He avoids it by a couple of feet, maybe less, as the 18 now on the outside line where he's been running for the first 5 laps of this race. Now going to have to try and rally back further into the top 10. He falls all the way to the edge at 10th. Now after that incident, Sam Nieto behind now in that beautiful holiday themed number 2 Ford Mustang. He tries to get into the top 10 as we single file out for a good bit, but we're still seeing some side-by-side action. Here comes Malik Ray. Nolan started 28th. He's already up to 20th, and the only pro-licensed driver in the field competing right now in the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series, and he's knocking on the door of the top 20, trying to get further up to the top 10.
He might be able to get an easy run here on the likes of Josh Ball and Thomas George. They both just collided with the outside wall off of turn number 4, so he's got to get clear of Braden Whitaker, and he might just be able to make a move here on that Rebel number 1 of the Series XM number 6, just up the road. But now he's clear as Connor Horn's going to do battle Braden Whitaker behind. Connor Horn, a very low 20th place considering he won the race. But again, we talked about it before about how that race really come down to a bit of a very strange last lap as Connor Horn's going to be looking to recover so far throughout the race after he, I don't believe, even set a qualifying lap, didn't get into the session on time.
Very strange last lap, I think, is the best way to put what happened at Daytona 1 week ago. It was interesting to say the least, exciting as well. So if you haven't watched it yet after the race, go back, watch our broadcast from round number 1 of the Real Sim Racing IceBreaker Winter Series and see the mad dash and a drag race 1-on-1 to the start-finish line where Connor Horn was able to pull off that finish. But at the front right now, it's still Agnell Phillip in the 94, good to the tune of about a half second over second place, which is Jaron Winemaster. That 9 machine, new number for the Winter Series, Martin Sports on the hood. A great finish for him at Daytona, or great run at Daytona, I should say, for the 9 of Jaron Winemaster, and he looks for a bit more, trying to chase down Agnell Phillip, but he loses another 10th that time by.
Agnell Phillip started to walk away with this lead slowly but surely, still within drafting range by about 0.6 of a second, but that is enough that he can now start to pull away with the dirty air that these B-class cars generate all throughout the corners. The question is now, for Agnell Phillip's 851 Pro Chevrolet, will he have that pace in the longer run as well? The number 1 being pushed a little bit through turns 3 and 4 by the likes of Connor Horn right behind him. Josh Ball starting to struggle right aboard the back of Malik Ray. There goes Horn trying to look to the inside of a damaged Josh Ball. You can see the right side of the hood crumpled up on the Mustang. Ball is going to go for the crossover on Connor Horn off of 2, but can't generate the momentum. He'll tuck it in line and sit in 20th.
The one pulling out of the way now, and you can see a very crunched in front nose of that Red Bull #1, wondering if maybe has some temp issues. That could mean an issue with the radiator, with that front end being so punched in. We'll see what happens with the one of Josh Ball as he falls to 20th. That gave Malik Ray the spot up to 18th now, side by side up the road, and contact made. That's Corey Blevins in the 99 and the 13 Jeremy Miller laying on the rear quarter panel for just a moment in turn 3. They're able to hold on. We stay green, still caution free through the first 14 completed laps of this race, and they're still side by side for 13th. That's Joseph Tice on the inside. He'll clear the 24. Grant Davis up on the top side, and now the 99, the 13, and here comes the rest of the gaggle of cars all the way down to P19 looking for spots.
Started to get a bit hectic at the back of the field as these guys continue to try to scrap it out and get themselves sorted. The front portion is really starting to kind of spread apart from each other, but it's everything going on in the background here that's keeping this second half of the field bunched up as tight as if it was still the opening lap of this race. Thomas George going to look to the inside of the Hasib Design 24 Chevrolet of Grant Davis, and he will clear in the number 6 Mustang. So Thomas George putting himself now up another spot, as that is for Grant Davis. 3 spots lost in the span of 1 lap. There's going to be a 4th one in the span of 2 as Josh Ball is going to stake up the inside.
And a damaged Josh Ball making that move as well. I'm wondering if Grant Davis maybe has an issue with there's something in his sim rig, maybe an issue with the 24 itself, but that's very uncharacteristic. Doesn't look like any damage to that machine. Nolan, as the 6 of Thomas George goes up, gives a little kiss to the outside wall, much like Darlington. Nolan, I don't think that's the last time we're going to see a car hit the wall. Just get a little bit of a kiss to that right side.
It's not the first time he's done that either. He's got damage on both sides of the car. Right front and left rear both starting to be crumpled in. He's hit that outside wall a couple of times already in the opening 20 laps of this race, which is not good news. The performance of that number 6. I think at this point, he's going to really need a pit stop if he wants to get himself all that performance. He's now no doubt losing from this aero damage back.
Braden Whitaker joining the fight here. He looks to the inside of Manazzi Major to go for a spot in 22nd, and you can see this group of cars continuing to fight in the inside of the 20th place positions. This is the battle for 22nd on the track right now, as gap for the lead has not shrunk. It has grown slightly with a battle for 10th place right now between Michael Laraya and Sam Nieto in that number 2, and Laraya is going to look for a bit more in the top 10. He goes to the inside of Ryan Dunkelberger, and to 9th place goes Michael Laraya in the 44.
As Dunkelberger starts to slip further back, he's going to have Nieto now attack him on the inside, and caution is out for the first time today, and 1 car slow on the apron in 3. That is Tom Morano with a lot of drivers, and it is Thomas George to be taking the responsibility for this yellow flag coming on out, and it would have been then on the front straightaway as he wrecked it a second time potentially coming off of turn number 4.
Yeah, spun that car around on the front straightaway there, and we'll go back, see exactly what happened to the 6, and it was on the front straightaway. Here he goes through 3 and 4, wondering, Nolan, if this is another typical Dover, and he just went up, slammed the wall, and yes, it was. It's a little bit too much throttle off the exit of 4, and that's how easy it is to make that contact, especially, Brandon Fetterplace getting a decent amount of damage off of that one. But that just goes to show what happens at Dover. Once you hit the wall once, it's almost like a magnet. Your tires start to take into effect, the aero starts to take into effect, and unfortunately, Thomas George just too much throttle through 3 and 4, and Brandon Fetterplace nowhere to go, gets a little bit of a piece.
Braden Whitaker lucked out that Fetterplace didn't run into the back bumper of him coming on down off of turn number 4 there. It was Braden Whitaker had himself a very close call. Meanwhile, pit stop's going to now be underway, and it is going to be a really busy pit road here.
Pretty much everybody coming in here, nobody went a lap down except for Tom Morano, who came into the pits off of that caution, is now 2 laps down and out of the race, it looks like, as well. But that'll be everybody into the pit lane. Who is going to win the race off? Agnell Phillip comes in from first. Will it be him winning the race? And barely, yes. Liam Sheen ends up jumping to second. Jaron Weinmaster, Zach Roethlisberger, and Andrew Phipps through to the top 5 in the race off of the pit lane. And what a race that was, as that will keep Agnell Phillip at the front of the field, and pretty typical for Agnell Phillip to be up at the front of the field. Nolan, of course, the champion of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series in the last season, and the first season with the next-gen cars as well. Race very different than these Xfinity machines, but Agnell Phillip clearly taking to the Xfinity machines really well here in the Winter Series as he leads the way and has led every single lap since the green flag has flown 23 laps ago.
Thomas George, of course, taking the responsibility for this latest incident. He will receive the mandatory end of the longest line penalty. This is his first yellow flag caused of the evening for him, and the next one would net him a one-lap stop and hold as well. So for Thomas George, you gotta hope he doesn't make that mistake again. We were just talking about it wasn't the first time, and certainly not the last time we were going to see drivers like George hit that outside wall, and I think that is starting to even ring true here as now the lights are aboard the pace car. We get set to go green flag this time by.
Agnell Phillip in the lead with Liam Sheen to the outside. Winemaster, Phipps, Roethlisberger, and Lamperti through to the top 6, rounding out the first 3 rows as we get ready to go back to green. Real Sim Racing IceBreaker Winter Series continues on through round number 2, and still are north of 100 laps to go in this race, just off the heels of caution flag number 1. We'll see if we do, how many more yellow flags we're going to have through the remainder of this race. But for now, iRacing pace car going to head into the safety of the pit lane. It's Agnell Phillip in control of the field. They'll hit the Geico restart zone, and side by side, 2 by 2, field retakes the green flag here at Dover, and we're back underway with 101 laps to go.
All drivers smooth sailing off of turn number 4 as we take it back down into turn number 1. Already looking for 3 wide, deeper in the pack, right around that 10th place, but they're going to double it out almost immediately as we'll hightail it down the concrete back straightaway and rock it down towards turn numbers 3 and 4 for the 25th time today. 100 laps already left on the dock in this race, screaming by Malik Ray on the move.
100 to go, and it is the Malik Ray that is trying to get further up through the field. He's made it to P11, goes to the inside of Ryan Dunkelberger in the 18, and that'll put Malik Ray inside of the top 10. Mentioned him being the best car when it came to practice, and of course the only pro license in the field. He's competing in the Contender Series and has in the past, and car in the wall off the front straightaway. I believe that was Andrew Phipps there, Nolan. He loses another spot and give Malik Ray 8th. He's gonna have to fight for it to the inside of the 25 down the back straight.
It was indeed Andrew Phipps that had hit the outside wall off of turn number 4, and now struggling to just hang on against the likes of Connor Horn, who himself is starting to climb through the order as well. Horn's looking to break his way into the top 10, and he's trying to go back-to-back in the IceBreaker Winter Series here. And for now, that number 67 Chevrolet going to be having himself a solid run as he runs down on the back end of the Boot Esports number 25.
And how about this battle for the lead that is starting to develop? It's Agnell Phillip versus Liam Sheen, and you can add Jaron Winemaster into that group as well. Of course, Liam Sheen, a competitor in the Real Sim Racing Cup Series in the past, returning to Real Sim Racing here for the Winter Series and these Xfinity cars that have been a driver favorite and a fan favorite for a long time here on the iRacing service. And Jaron Winemaster, of course, competed in the Cup Series this year. He's at the tail end of this lead group. Top 3 separated by a half second. Agnell Phillip has not pulled away yet, and keeping him reeled in is Sheen and Winemaster as Roethlisberger tries to pull away from the rest of the pack. Cody Harris is still there. Jason Staney all in between Malik Ray and the race lead as Ray tries to look back to the inside in 3.
Ray screaming it up the inside line, but still can't get up to Jason Staney in the Pure Sims number 57 car, as Staney's doing a good job on trying to hang on there for that top 5 position now that he's trying to get into the top 5, excuse me, as Cody Harris defends against him, but it's going to be Staney to go up high, letting Malik Ray through on the inside. That might be a strategical move there, though, for Staney. Lose the one spot, then allow Malik Ray to punch the door open for you, and you just follow him right through.
Two Ford Mustangs making a deal on the track as here comes Connor Horn. You mentioned it earlier, Nolan. He did not put in a time in qualifying. Started all the way back P29. He is right behind Malik Ray by 1 position in terms of biggest movers of the race, all the way from 29th to 8th, plus 21 on the day. And Connor Horn is looking for more spots inside the top 10. Winner from Daytona, current points leader. He wants all the points that he can possibly get, and right now, Nolan, that is exactly what he is going to have. And what a run this would be for Connor Horn if he goes from 29th all the way up to the race lead. As right now, with the lead, Agno Phillip leads the live standings.
But not as much as he did at this point in time for the first run. You know, by now he pulled out a 0.4 of a second lead or so over the likes of Liam Sheen. Now that gap is hovering underneath 0.2 of a second. And Liam Sheen in the Splash and Go graphics Chevy is looking like he wants to start to try to find a way through. So I think Agno Phillip might not be as strong a bit later in the race. Either that or Liam Sheen has found the line, and he's starting to really turn that dial up. He's trying to apply the pressure on the field to keep him honest. That's the thing about Dover. You want to make sure that you're close enough to your opponents that if they make a mistake, you can sweep up and steal the spot away. But you don't want to be so close, you're going to find yourself getting involved as well, which, as we've seen already, is such an easy thing to do around the Monster Mile.
Already seeing the subtle differences from this run versus the first run. I feel like the first run was everybody being really aggressive, trying to go for as much track position as they possibly could. And we saw a lot of 2 wide, 3 wide. We saw a lot of bold moves being made. That doesn't seem to be the case here in this run. I mean, yes, we're still seeing the side-by-sides and a little bit of a side-by-side back here between Steve Tucker and Josh Ball. Ball on the outside line, Tucker in the 0-0 on the inside. But we're seeing a lot more calmness as right as I say that, they start beating and banging on each other and slam into the wall, and Josh Ball slams into the side of Braden Whitaker. I'm speaking the chaos into existence.
Oh, and it's more contact with Steve Durham that time by Josh Ball all over the map. He had hit the wall off of turn number 4. That kind of sent him low, almost into the side of Braden Whitaker. Then he did turn into the side of Braden Whitaker in 1. That sent him into the outside wall in 2. He immediately turned down and he'll erect himself across the nose of Durham, who was coming off of turn number 2. Now Durham's going to try to look back to the inside, and I have a feeling Durham might not be too happy with Ball. He might be getting a bit more aggressive than he might otherwise.
Heard some displeasure over the iRacing voice chat there from Steve Durham, so definitely think he's not going to be very happy with Josh Ball in the number 1 machine, fighting for 21st on the track. But Connor Horn ups another spot on Jason Staney, and at the same time, Malik Ray is going to do the exact same thing and march his way up into the top 5. That Sim Seats number 21, very familiar colors in the RSR world, and he's back in the Winter Series looking for more spots on the racetrack. His next victim will be Zach Roethlisberger as he continues to chase him down. Agno Phillip in the first run pulled away by a lot. I believe the gap when we had that yellow flag was somewhere around 8 or 9 tenths. Not the case here, as we are now 15 laps into this run. Liam Sheen is keeping Agno Phillip in the 94 reeled in. 2.5 or 0.25 seconds is that gap right now. That's exactly what Liam Sheen wants to see, not what Agno Phillip wants to see, with still a long run still left in this race. And Nolan, I don't believe they can make it all the way to the end of the race. 100 laps on fuel, maybe. 100 laps on tires, almost no way.
And they're going to have to absolutely still make at least 1 pit stop yet. If not for fuel, then certainly for the tires. You're not going to be running a full race. At this point, though, since they already pitted around lap 20 or so, I think we're not going to be seeing that next run of green flag pit stops until probably closer to about 40 laps or so from now. You can go quite a distance at this track, at least on the fuel mileage. So we'll have to keep eyes on that one as we continue to slowly but surely work our way through this race. Just passed under the 1/3 mark as we went under the starter stand for the 43rd time tonight. Phillip still leading the way up in front, as now, and checking a little bit further down the order, here goes the 99 car. The likes of Corey Blevins trying to fend off this pack behind, followed up by Nieto, Cato, and Tice.
And this is a battle for P15, or P14, I should say, on the racetrack as they all continue to fight their way through, and big battles back here as we'll look on board with Ross Cato as he goes to the outside. Joseph Tice will go to the inside as they fight their way on. Ross Cato in the 12, of course, and currently running P16 on the track. He'll let Joseph Tice go by. I don't think Ross Cato really wanting to be too aggressive just yet. He continues to run inside of the top 20 and let Tice go by just to buy himself a little bit of time in that 12th machine. Not the best qualifying effort and down 4 spots from where he started P12.
He's got a front row seat to the dogfight developing between Sam Vieto and Corey Blevins right in front of him as well, as Vieto's going to sweep by the Hasib Design 99, and that's going to allow Joseph Tice now to push up to the back end. I thought about a move. He's going to commit to it, though. Blevins will leave the door open. Joseph Tice is going to go on the offensive for 14th place, but can't get the drive lead to want him. Oh, but a big checkup from Blevins off of 2, though, will allow Tice to sweep right through, and Ross Cato had to scramble to avoid him, and he's looking to see if he can pick up 15th now.
Cato to the inside, Corey Blevins on the outside. The 99 will let the 12 go on through. Back up to P15 goes Ross Cato. Battle between Staney and Horn also starting to develop a little bit, as Connor Horn was able to get by Staney a couple of laps ago, and the 57 has not let the 67 and reigning winner from Daytona get too far. 2/10 is that gap right now between those two. Less than 2/10 is the gap between Malik Ray and Zach Roethlisberger, as the 21 is slowly but surely inched away at that gap. Last time by, Malik Ray actually losing a bit of time to the 93 as Zach Roethlisberger. As he goes into the top 5, Nolan, looks like Malik Ray might have reached that arbitrary wall that we talk about when drivers are starting at the back. They have really fast cars. They gain. Of course, in the terms of Malik Ray, 23 spots gained on the race so far, but then they reach a wall where their speed kind of evens out with who they're racing, and they end up just kind of stalling out, and it seems like that's what's happening right now in P5, especially with 27 lap old tires on that number 21 too.
I think that's the one really big factor about Dover, right? I mean, you have to really almost blitz these drivers if you want to continue to make your way up. You get stuck behind somebody for even one lap, and that alone will stall out your pace. You're not going to be able to find yourself a run to get going. You get the runs off these corners by having a run going into the corner. If you don't have one, you're not going to be able to get yourself the other. And that's the problem that Malik Ray is really struggling with. He's hanging around in 5th place, and I think this is where he's going to be sitting for the next little while here until the tires start to fall off of his opponents in front of him in the likes of Roethlisberger and Weinmaster. But even then, you've still got a good second and a half up to the leader, Agno Phillip, who, by the way, has now started to catch up to lap traffic in the form of Michael Kuczynski.
And Agno Phillip has pulled the way once again. Last time by, he was about a half-tenth quicker than Liam Sheen, and I believe Liam Sheen might have made some sort of mistake on the racetrack, or those tires finally starting to wear off for the 02 as he falls to about 8.5 tenths, make it 9 tenths now from that race lead, and actually that time by gaining about a half-tenth on Agno Phillip up in the race lead. But you mentioned that lap traffic, and everybody now on this lead lap, they all pitted same time under the yellow flag about 30 laps ago. The last time by for Agno Phillip, a 25.162. Best lap of the race, 23.799. Already about a second and a half lost on those tires, and we're not even kind of halfway through this green flag run. We're still expecting these drivers, Nolan, to run pretty much another 30, maybe even 40 laps on these tires.
And the tire fall up, at least on time, is so drastic. You're not going to be able to keep your pace for very long, but at least once the tires do start to fall off, it almost forces you to kind of go a little bit more conservative with your tires, which does help some. It allows you to be able to just kind of negotiate and manage a little bit more than you might be able to otherwise. So it's a trade-off, right? As, whoa, Joseph Tice getting into the door of Lautaro Lamperti down the back straightaway off of turn number 2 as he pushed out just a little bit too wide.
Not the first time we've seen that tonight, and I don't think that will be the last time either, as we inch closer and closer to halfway done with this race. We'll reach that point at lap 63. We'll be halfway done with this race, and right now at the front, Malik Ray able to get by Zach Roethlisberger for 4th. Can he get by Jaron Weinmaster for 3rd? That's Sean Kalist, who has just been put a lap down, the first driver to be lapped on the racetrack under green flag conditions. Chris Edwards in the pit lane right now. He's 24.5 minutes into repairs. Mike Kaczynski as well, 5 laps down. I believe he pitted for some outstanding damage and still is very damaged in that number 30. He pulls it back down to the apron and looks like he'll be pulling it back down into the pit lane. Not the night that Mike Kaczynski wanted, or just letting those lead lap drivers go. It definitely looks like a very, very damaged and almost a limping number 30 Toyota Supra. As he'll gain a spot on Chris Edwards, who is still stuck in the pit lane now, 5 laps down. But next driver, Agnell Phillip, will be reaching to put a lap down, will be Thomas George, the driver that brought out the first yellow flag, and so far the only yellow flag we've had tonight.
See, Lamperti just lost a spot to Joseph Tyson. Might lose another one to Ross Cato here. Cato starting to get some speed around that outside lane. I think Lamperti fell into the trap that you mentioned. He's hit his wall, and now you started to drop back as Cato's going to clear around the outside line. Last time by, Ross Cato running a higher line. Was a good 0.2 of a second quicker than Lamperti alone, and now Cato's closing up towards Joseph Tice. So the battle is on for 13th place. They've got the likes of Ryan Dunkelberger and Andrew Phipps just up the road. Phipps does have damage, which might be slowing some of these drivers down as they start to close on up to the back end of the number 25.
Working our way to around lap 60 now as Agnell Phillip comes back across the start-finish line. Malik Ray still beating on the back bumper of Jaron Winemaster with a 10th separating these two. When can he make that move? That in sim seats number 21 has been on a tear so far tonight. And we sound like broken records really talking about Malik Ray so much, Nolan, but it is showing why he is at a pro license level, why he is currently trying to make another run at the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. It is because he is quick. He knows his way around these virtual racetracks and knows his way around Dover, fastest in practice, just made a mistake during qualifying, ended up at the back of the field and not even halfway done with this race, and he's already knocking on the door of a podium.
Trying to almost put the bumper to Jaron Winemaster here to move the number 9 Martin Sports Chevrolet up and out of the way. But Ray's now going to have to back off just that little bit more. As there you can see all the drivers so far throughout your field. You got the 94 exiting turn number 2. That is your current race leader. You see the next bout of lap traffic some ways down the road yet. So that's good news for Phillip. Means he can now start to walk away with that lead once again as he pulls it out to 1.3 seconds.
James Ross will be that next bit of lap traffic as there's James Ross going through 1 and 2. Here's Agnell Phillip working his way into turn number 1. As we work our way through lap 63, this will be the halfway point of today's race, and at halfway we'll run you through the entire grid currently as they run. With putting lap 63 behind us, we'll go to 62 laps to go, and it's Agnell Phillip that currently leads the way with Liam Sheen in second, Malik Ray, Jaron Winemaster, Zach Roethlisberger through to the top 5 as they all continue to fight on. Cody Harris and Connor Horn 6th and 7th with Michael Arias, Sam Nieto, and Jason Staney going to round out the top 10 currently running, Nolan.
And that's going to put the likes of Andrew Phipps back in that 11th position. He's over 8 seconds back at the moment for Agnell Phillip, so a long way down the order for the number 25. Ryan Dunkelberger is in line with him. Then you've got Joseph Tice, Lautaro Lamperti, and Ross Cato all in the line as well. You've got Corey Blevins right behind them at the number 99 car, and a bit of Nova's Lamper behind them is the likes of Paul Bergoli running at 17. He's got Steve Tucker, Brandon Whitaker, and Jeremy Miller to round out the top 20 right behind him.
Steve Durham is still trying to climb his way from a 32nd starting spot. That number 10 machine is in 21st. Josh Ball still a very damaged front end to that number 1, but he's holding strong. P22. Nahoin Flores trying to get by him in the number 88. He's 23rd. Harry Grindell 24th with Eric Papanow rounding out your top 25. Benazzi Major, Grant Davis, Brandon Fetter Place, James Ross, and Sean Kalis through the top 30. And then Mike Kaczynski on the racetrack right now, a very damaged number 30. Thomas George has pulled himself into the pit lane to get some damage repaired. And then Chris Edwards has been in the pit lane now for 29 total minutes. And We'll see if he ends up making another appearance on the racetrack in that number 72. And Tom Morano has been off the track and out for 46 laps so far. That's top to bottom at your current running order with 59, make it 58 laps to go when we come across the start-finish line this time by. And it's still reigning champ Agnel Phillip that leads the way in round number 2 of the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series from iRacing's virtual Dover Motor Speedway. Next closest battle on the racetrack, Winemaster versus Roethlisberger. Both of these drivers have been up front all night long, and they're now fighting for 4th.
And trouble for Josh Ball. He's going to lose 5 spots in one lap. He scraped along the outside wall all the way through turn numbers 3 and 4 due to, I believe, some undue contact potentially with the 88 of Nahoin Flores. So that's going to see an already damaged Josh Ball now even more so scraped up on the right-hand side. Looking at the replay, this might have been a little bit after that little bit of a ding, but you saw him scrape all the way along the outside wall through 3 and 4. Right there's a bit of a nudge right there off of 2, and then he hit the wall himself. I think just scared himself wide there, Josh.
It was a little bit of connection issues that led to that first contact. Wondering if it's a little bit of connection issues that led to maybe a second contact that then led to him scraping the wall not once, not twice, but it was like 3 times there through 3 and 4. So a very interesting incident for Josh Ball. He'll pull that number 1 machine into the pit lane, and looks like he might end up retiring it from there. But Agnel Phillip still leads the way, and that'll bring one more driver into the pit lane and one more driver put a lap down. 28 drivers now on the lead lap with 55 to go. Still in a battle. It's Winemaster and Roethlisberger. Make it 2/10 separating these 2 drivers at the current moment. Ross Cato back in a fight with Joseph Tice as Cato has now kind of re-caught the driver in front of Joseph Tice in the 5. They continue to race on. This is for a spot in the top 12.
Continue to do battle up here in the top half of the field. You've still got all these different battles that have yet to be decided. That's one of the best parts about Dover. You can always find a battle somewhere on the racetrack, but I think now a lot of the battles we have are going to be settled in the pits. We talked about at the top of the broadcast, we're going to be seeing a lot of these races come down to strategy. I think now that we're past halfway, you're 50 laps in, you know you can make it to the end of the race now if you pit on fuel. I think at this point it's a question now as to when you make that stop.
And there you can see the stint numbers for everybody currently in the field as Agnel Phillip reaches more lap traffic. That's the damage number 30 I was mentioning earlier of Mike Kaczynski. But 51 laps for Agnel Phillip and basically everybody in that lead group as they all came down pit road at the same time. But it was under the yellow flag. No, we have not seen green flag stops yet tonight, and I think, in my personal opinion, more than any other track in the real life or in the iRacing service, Dover might be the most difficult track to get on and off a pit road, as the 00 of Steve Tucker brings his Toyota Supra down into the safety of the pit lane for his pit stop. It's very difficult to get on and off pit road under green, especially if you want to keep your speed up and try and keep track position at the same time.
I fully agree with you on that one. I think that's part of what we're struggling, or we're seeing drivers now having to work with, is how you want to get down to pit road. You have to obviously make the call out pretty early to make sure you don't get run over on entry, because you can't just enter low off of 3. You're going to lose way too much time if you do that. You have to make that entry, I'd say about halfway through 3 and 4. That's where you're going to want to start to be down on that apron. And usually you see these drivers flirting with, the good old orange commitment box. Now, at most tracks, that's not something you actually have to really adhere to. But that being said, you miss that box here, you're missing pit road as Liam Shane steps the back end out on the entry, as does Connor Horn going for a Tokyo drift right behind him.
That was a bold move from the 02 of Liam Sheen. I'm not sure he even got it slowed down there, Nolan. We're going to find out. But more calls for the pit lane. Ryan Dunkelberger brings it in. So does Jeremy Miller. Manazzi Major is in. Braden Whitaker calling for pit road this time by. Andrew Phipps is in. This will bring Zach Roethlisberger into the pit lane as well. Brandon Fetterplace joins the drivers down in the pit lane. Agnel Phillip is calling for the pit lane this time by as he heads to 3.
It's a very busy pit road. About a third of your field is already in, and now so is race leader Agnell Phillip, who slams on the brakes and smokes the right side tires. Drivers are now constantly in a battle with each other. Some are leaving pit road, some are entering pit road. You have to always be very, very careful with pit lanes like this. If you pit now and a caution comes out, it could be either a game changer in a good way or a horrible way. I think at the moment for the guys that are now on pit road, they don't want to see a caution. They want to see everybody else have to pit first, and then they'll be able to get themselves back on the racetrack. But at the moment, the way things sit, they're going to be trapped a lap down as Michael O'Reilly takes it to the lane.
Jason Staney also into his pit box. Agnell Phillip is into his. He'll exit out 14.6 in the box. It'll be Michael O'Reilly bringing his number 44 in as well. Malik Ray drifting it through. Did he make speed? He did still have those tires locked up past the commitment cones. We'll see if we have any double dips down into the pit lane and any black flags as Malik Ray brings it into his very early pit stalls of the pit entry with his lack of a qualifying time. Cody Harris, Latero Lamperti, Steve Durham, Newen Flores, and add Grant Davis as well to James Ross. The only handful of drivers still left on the racetrack without having a green flag pit stop.
I can say with confidence that we have been able to get ourselves relatively sorted without a caution just as of yet. So we are didn't have a good run so far. Whoa, hello. Who was that just came onto the racetrack a second time? That was James Ross, who will fire down to pit road. A bit of a, oh, he spun it on the entry. James Ross sideways in pit road. That's going to cost him a boatload of time.
He keeps it straight, at least on the racetrack, and he was able to bring it into the safety of the pit lane to prevent bringing out a yellow flag. Cody Harris in the 28 calls for pitting this time. Latero Lamperti still yet to pit as here comes the 28. A little bit of a drift, hard on the brakes, has to lock him up. Hopefully he made speed. Doesn't look like anybody has been called back into the pit lane for a black flag as Lamperti brings it in this time. Does he miss the barrels? Yes, he does, but yellow
caution!
Flag and caution flag. It's the speedway. I'm not sure where, but that'll lock Cody Harris in, and Newen Flores and Steve Durham stay on the racetrack. Add Grant Davis as three drivers who are going to have a free pit stop under the yellow flag.
I'm surprised that Durham stayed on the racetrack because he was the cause of the yellow. He had turned down into Harry Grindell. There was a collision between himself and the 70. That's the big mess there, and there's displeasure between Durham on the radio with Grindell over this. Grindell, for context on this, had just exited pit road. So this happened off of pit road here. So watch, he's coming on out, but at this point he's up to speed, and Durham just turns in on him. I can't honestly find anything that Grindell did wrong. Was he slower? Yeah, but he doesn't have to yield. He's already on the racetrack and getting up to speed now.
Flores pits. Durham stays out on the racetrack for now. We know he'll have to pit for damage repair at least. Grant Davis is in. Latero Lamperti also in. This will cycle Cody Harris to the race lead. It'll cycle Liam Sheen to second place. Behind him will be Agnell Phillip, Jaron Winemaster, Malik Ray, and Sam Nieto on the lead lap. One lap down, Lariah, Stenny, Cato, Dunkelberger, Tice, Phipps, Blevins, Miller, Tucker, Bragoli, Whitaker, Papanow, Major, Grindell, and Ross. That has trapped the better part of at least 15 cars one lap down.
And the only way I think they'd be able to get back out would be for them to have to come down to the pit road as Malik Ray's pulling it off. Malik Ray pulling it off, and he's now out of the race cars. So Malik Ray going to be among the drivers that's now down and out for the count. That's horrible news for Ray. He was having such a good race already. I can't imagine why he would have wanted to pull it off. He was set to get back onto the lead lap, but I guess it just one of those disagreements. Cody Harris will stay out, it looks like, and he will be one of the drivers that will trap a good number of guys now a lap down. Had he pitted, and they would all be able to get their laps back.
Steve Durham has brought his car into the pit lane. That'll keep Nguyen Flores in second place with Cody Harris in the lead. Then Liam Sheen, who's in the pit lane as well. Agnell Phillip has decided to bring it in as well. For these drivers that were on the lead lap, and there's now a good bit of drivers that are gaining their laps back after being waved around the pace car. I guess taking a bit of a free pit stop, get some fresher tires on, and make the 40 some odd lap run to the finish. But right now, cycled race leader is Cody Harris, and he'll be leading for one of the first times tonight. He's only led right before he was going to take to the pit lane for a green flag stop. So we'll see what Cody Harris can do with clean air at the front, but this race getting turned on its head with still Paul Brigoli, Braden Whitaker, Sam Nieto, Eric Papanow, and more being trapped a lap down. Tucker, Miller, Blevins, Phipps, Tice, Dunkelberger, Cato, Staney, Lariah, Winemaster, and the rest of those drivers have been able to get their laps back after being positioned in between the lead car and the pace car. So they were able to get waved around, and now a handful more are going to get waved around. Manazzi Major being one of them, but they will not gain their laps back, it looks like. Only gaining their laps back will be drivers previously mentioned, as it looks like lights are out. We are getting ready to go back to racing with 38 laps to go in a completely different race than we had right before that yellow flag came out.
Steve Durham did at the last second take responsibility for the yellow flag, so he will be able to get himself towards the end of the field. But a lot of these guys now have to scramble to catch on up to the tail end of this pacing line here before we go back to green flag racing. Pace car's about to enter turn 3. Still got a good chunk of drivers back over there in 1 and 2, but it looks like they'll all be able to get there in time. The only question at the moment is Durham. Now, obviously, if Durham can't get himself in line, which is at the tail end of the field, quick enough, he will be able to find himself getting that black flag cleared, because it's not his fault if you can't have 20 drivers all passing you in the span of about 10 seconds here.
Cody Harris, Nguyen Flores lead the way to the green flag. Geico restart zone with 38 to go. Harris leads for the first time tonight. Nguyen Flores, a brand new name, looks to make headway in the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series as they roar into turn 1. Side by side further on back between Lamperti and Sheen, and they'll settle it out with Lamperti in 4th. Still a little bit of side by side as Lamperti goes to the inside of Nguyen Flores. The battle for 3rd as Flores lets the faster drivers go on by. Move Grant Davis in a second to fight with Harris with 37 to go this time by.
This is where all the calamity starts to come in. You got a lot of drivers that are kind of making action. Oh, look out! One car hard to the wall. Turn 2. One car caught. 3, 4, 5. We're wrecking big time in turns 1 and 2. It's the big one at Dover. We knew it was going to happen eventually. Although I have to say, I didn't expect to see it at one of the corners. Usually it's down the straights that we see stuff like that take place.
That was a harsh right-hand turn by the 11 of Lamperti. What on earth happened here? Was it contact with Sheen? Oh, yes, it was. Some pretty good contact with Sheen at that in turn 1. Who did he collect there? I see the 14 of James Ross. I see the 12 of Ross Cato getting a piece. I'm not sure who those high-speed drivers slamming into that wreck were. But we'll take another look at the incident here. It was just some of the slightest contact with Liam Sheen, but that's all it took, Nolan, to get this incident going.
You had Grindel, Major was collected, Dunkelberger and Staney both got into this. James Ross took a huge hit. Ross Cato was involved, and Jeremy Miller just barely managed to avoid that one as well. He and Jeremy Weimaster both had some very lucky escapes in that mess. Miller having to back it down. As for Weimaster, he lucked out by just being able to shoot around the high side before that wreck developed any further than it did early on. So we're in the final quarter now of the race, and the one good thing about this caution, now it's going to get everybody sorted in their proper positioning. Before, you had a lot of cases of drivers that were lapped down being tangled up with guys that were on the lead lap as a result of everybody being single file to the back end for being waved around the pace car. Now that's going to all get sorted out here.
Caution flag number 3 of the night for the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series round number 2, the 8-round season. And right now, where we stand, of course, Connor Horn ran into a little bit of trouble stuck one lap down after that incident, and also got a bit of damage somewhere down the line. He had a 54-second pit stop last time he was down in the pit lane, which I believe was under that green flag. So at the current moment, with our live standings, Agnell Phillip, even though he is currently still in 5th, needs to gain his way back up to the race lead, holds the top spot in the points, with Jaron Weinmaster in 2nd place, currently running P6 on the track. And how about Staney, Lariah, and Flores through the top 5, with Connor Horn dropping from 1st to 6th if he's not able to get much better than 20th.
And lights do stay on aboard the Arson Pace car. Some drivers were already looking to kind of double it up already, so some guys just want to get a move on. Although I think that being said, these are actually a lot of the guys that are in fact laps down, and they're not being filtered all the way to the tail end of the field, which it puts into perspective just how many drivers got absolutely screwed by that second yellow flag of the evening, coming right at the tail end of pit stops. I was mentioning it before, you know, once you come down to pit road, you're guaranteed almost to lose a lap. So it's one of those cases where you really have to try to just hope that you'll get yourself a lucky caution to help you get back onto the lead lap, or that at the very least, if that caution does come out, the guys that still had to pit were already in the lane, which in this case, one of the guys that wrecked was one of the guys that also had to come down to pit road still.
Still north of 30 laps to go, and I keep replaying in my head, Nolan, the exact moment that you said that this race was going to come down to the pit stops under the green flag, and I think that was when we were expecting, you know, green to the end all the way through, good after those pit stops, and now 2 cautions later and a field turned on its head. This is all but being solved in the pit stops, and with damage to the front end of the 24 as well, and I'm just noticing this one's going to be solved on the racetrack.
Oh yes it will. This race is going to be absolutely just down to the wire, just like we had over at Daytona. Daytona, we lucked out to only get 1 caution, though, and it was early on. Then, of course, you had the melee on the last lap. Not so lucky at Dover. At Dover, it was a caution that allowed us to be able to pull ourselves back into a bit of a better position to be able to race it out. Out of the 34 drivers in this race, you've still got about 25 still on the racetrack, but only 15 of those are on the lead lap.
And those drivers stuck 1 lap down. Still Sam Nieto, Eric Papanow, Brandon Fetter placed, Connor Horn, Manatzi Major, Steve Durham still trapped a lap down, and then Harry Grindell 2 down, Sean Kalis and Ryan Dunkelberger 3 down. Mike Kaczynski, last driver on the track, he is 7 laps down in 28th. Back to the guy co-restart zone. Cody Harris, Grant Davis, Liam Sheen, Agnell Phillip, Jaron Weinmaster complete the top 5. Cody Harris leads the way with Grant Davis on the outside. Here comes the 94 Agnell Phillip from 4th to try and get back to the race lead. Harris with a great jump side by side for 2nd place as Sheen goes to the inside.
Sheen's gonna go to the inside and try to get the run on Cody Harris down that back straightaway. Try to make a run for the race lead, but Harris blocks down in towards turn number 3. So Harris will hang on for 1 more. Green flag lap will start. Lap 95, 31 to go. It's a 2-car breakaway though for the race lead.
Side by side, still fourth as Agnell Phillip will keep that spot and push Grant Davis to the tail end of the top 5. Side by side between Cato and Lariah, further back as well as Liam Sheen goes for the dive. He pushes Harris a little bit up the track, but new race leader Liam Sheen, the 02, gets it done. 30 to go.
30 laps remaining. Cody Harris hangs around right behind him while 1 by 1 drivers start to get themselves further and further sorted in towards the end of this race. Couple guys still flirting with that outside wall, but so far no major issues that we have to be too concerned about. We're now settled back in to a general rhythm, so to speak. It's not a very pleasant rhythm, I'd imagine, but it's a rhythm nonetheless, as you know, 1 by 1 these guys will take the laps away while they continue to do battle way back for about that 8th, 9th, and 10th place, where you've got a hornet's nest of cars for about 8th on back to a 16th all under a blanket.
It's a freight train roaring its way through 3 and 4 as side by side, Sam Nieto goes to the inside, now to the inside of the 99. Remember, Nieto is 1 lap down. He is not racing any of these drivers around him, but Ross Cato going to the inside of Jason Staney. That is for a spot on the racetrack. Side by side for 10th is now Staney goes side by side with Tice to hold on to P11. Still side by side for a majority of the places, back 1 lap down as Agnel Phillip. This is an unfamiliar territory for him in this race, Nolan, having to fight to get back to the race lead. He's had to defend it before, now he's got to do it from 4th.
And Agnel Phillip going to continue to try to see if he can run down Jerry Weinmaster's number 9 right in front of him. Phillip, time and time again, off of all of these restarts, at the end of the runs, has been able to walk away with the race lead, but again, that's when he was in clean air. He doesn't have that anymore. Now the question is, does he have the time to get his way up there? I don't doubt he's got the pace to be able to make these moves and get back up to the race lead, but he's now sitting 1.2 seconds back. He's got to get a move on here if he wants to get that lead back and win this race.
25 laps to go, and those laps can go very, very quickly. Side by side for 3rd. Phillip to the inside. He'll get to the final step of the podium. Now goes for 2nd and 1st between Harris and Sheen. And that gap right now is sitting at about 5.5 tenths in between Sheen and Harris. So at the front, the 0-2 looking to go back to RSR victory lane in his return to RSR competition in the Winter Series.
Phillip trying to see if he can run him down, but it's a botch for Phillip off of 2. That will only allow for Weinmaster to get back to the inside. So you've still got Sheen breaking away for the race lead with Cody Harris right behind. And there you see the fight for 3rd. Right nose to tail. Phillip will clear, but only just, while Liam Sheen continues to maintain a race lead. About holding even at the moment with Cody Harris in terms of lap times. He was only a few hundredths of a second quicker than the 28 car this last time around.
22 to go at the stripe. Jared Weinmaster losing ground to Agnel Phillip. Grant Davis trying to gain a bit of ground back, but he's got Andrew Phipps to deal with behind him in that number 25. Side by side now was for a moment, not anymore. It was Jeremy Miller and Michael Araya. Ross Cato is on a tear right now. He has worked his way up further into the top 10. He sits now in P9 as they continue to fight behind him. Ross Cato is saying thank you very much and is going to continue to try and fight for more points. He's up to P9.
Ross Cato hanging on, and bit of no man's land at the moment for that number 12 car, but right about now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It means he doesn't have to worry so much about the guys around him. He's just got to worry about himself, which when you're sitting up in the 9th place, it's not that bad of a gig at all at Dover. He's content to just kind of let Jim Miller try to pick away at Michael O'Reilly in front of him. Into the outside wall goes Grant Davis.
Grant Davis now still losing positions on the track, and now will fall victim to Michael Araya and Jeremy Miller as that group of cars now fighting for 7th place. Miller not able to get back to side by side with Araya, and punched in rear of that number 44 Chevy Camaro as well. Closer to the tail end of the lead lap is Blevins and Steve Tucker. They've been fighting a little bit too in the number 99, the 00 behind of Steve Tucker. And in front of this group, how about that, Nolan? Connor Horn, second driver, 1 lap down. He's behind Sam Nieto. Nieto and Horn are racing for a position on the track, and they've found each other, but surrounded by lead lap machines they'll have to race around.
And they're going to continue to do battle against each other. As for Blevins, getting the door kind of closed on him there by Connor Horn, and that's going to send him too wide in 1 and 2. As Corey Blevins tried to attack Connor Horn at the turn 1, but Horn slammed the door shut, ended up making Blevins enter much lower than he wanted to, and that only cost Blevins time. But now, look at this. Huge run up a turn 4 as he dives the corner, makes the peak, and now he will be alongside. And Connor Horn's going to back off early and give Corey Blevins the spot. Does not want to waste time battling with the number 99 car. He's content to just right around to the back And now Corey Blevins will see if he can do some work here to try to push his way further through the field. Doesn't help that Connor Horn's a lap down, of course, so Horn's not going to gain anything by fighting Blevins for this one.
With damage to the right side of that car as well. Not much for Connor Horn to continue to fight for. A very clean number 2 is Sam Nieto. Currently the first driver 1 lap down. If we do get a caution, he will be able to get that wave around. But now, Cato has caught Lariah and Miller to the inside. For 8th goes Ross Cato in the 12. The number 44 goes upstairs in the sim speed shop. Number 44, 15 to go. Grant Davis bounces off the wall. So does Jeremy Miller as Cato makes the move for 8th.
We're in the dying stages of this race. Lariah trying to push up to Cato, trying to push up to the back of Miller. Behind them, Tyson Nieto cling on in the background. Nieto not for position, but everybody else in here in a 4-way scrap for the 7th position with the likes of Grant Davis pushing a little bit further. Clear with that 6th position. Cato looks to the inside of the Martin Sports number 13 Supra, and now it's way up the hill for Jeremy Miller, who's going to try to diamond the corner off and might try to get a run back down the straightaway, but he went too wide, and that only costed him time, as it turns out, instead of trying to defend that spot.
This front group, specifically top 7, have really spread out. Gap between Sheen and Harris, 8/10. Gap between Harris and Phillip, about 7/10. Gap from Phillip to Winemaster, 1.8 seconds. With 13 to go, his drivers, if they want to make anything happen on the track, are going to need to kind of condense themselves back up, unless, of course, we see another yellow flag. But right now, closest battle within that top 10 is going to be Lariah and Tice for P9, and it's right at the tail end of this group.
And you had just seen as well, Jeremy Miller side-slapped the wall off of turn number 4, so that cost him a couple tenths of a second back to the likes of Michael Lariah right behind him. So the Sim Speed Shop 44 doing a good job to just kind of hang with him, but he's got to get more pace underneath that Chevrolet Camaro if he wants to actually make this pass here. Miller's just been so quick so far on corner exit that these guys behind aren't really able to compete all that well with him, it seems. We get set to take 10 laps to go. Lariah's too deep in a 1. Joseph Tice tried to lunge it in to make a move for what would have been up for 9th, but he's going to have to fall back in line. It was a swing and a miss for the Mountain Dew number 5 Chevrolet. It's 10 to go this time by.
Liam Sheen looking for victory lane, and only his 2nd race in his return to RSR competition. Cody Harris trying to chase him down, and Agno Phillip watching in the wings from 3rd. Gotta think, Agno Phillip wondering what if that caution never came out? What if you would have waited to pit just a couple of laps later? I mean, a lot of what ifs that Agno Phillip can wonder about in this one. And I think this is going to be the race that got away for the 94. Such a dominating first half of the race, and really extending all the way until we made those green flag stops.
For Agno Phillip, it has been so far, it was at least a really good race, but then, of course, you mentioned it before, he had that run of green flag stops. He was in and out of the pit road just fine, but it was a caution that came out at a really bad point for him, and that prevented him from being able to get the race lead. He would need another caution at this point to do it. Now, if he does get a lucky yellow flag here in these closing laps, at this point, I think it would put us into green-white checker territory. I think Phillip could still do it, though. I honestly think if he gets a lucky caution, we go to overtime, he may very well still be able to get an attempt at that race lead, but he's not going to be able to do it for 1.6 seconds back with only 7 laps to go.
Cody Harris will get that gap a little bit shorter. 25.167 last time by for Liam Sheen. 25.122 for Cody Harris. Harris almost hits the outside wall off of 4, but that time by, he's able to put a 10th into the gap of Liam Sheen. This might not be over with 6 to go, but he's got to gain back quicker than he's gaining now, plus get by the O2. And as we're already into 3 and 4, 5 to go at the line, it's not going to be quick enough unless Sheen is able to make a mistake.
Liam Sheen, 5 to go, trying to see if he can just hang on. He's got 5.5 tenths of a second to work with. Back to Cody Harris. There's 1 lap car up the road. It is Minazzi Major. I don't think Sheen is catching him, though, fast enough for it to be able to matter. Well, oh, there it is! Caution flag! What did I tell you?
Connor Horn involved. Harry Grindell in the 70 slams into the 67. And just like that, the yellow flag is back out. And a changed race once again. The second tables flipped. And off of 4, where was the incident for Horn? Was it contact heading into turn 1? Yes, it was, with the 37 of Eric Papinow. That turned Horn. And a bad night for Connor Horn, turns worse and just barely making contact with Harry Grindell. But do we see pit stops, Nolan? Is anybody going to chance it for some tires? Everybody's going to chance it for tires.
Oh, boy. So this race getting kicked up in a high gear.
Out.
Nieto so far staying
Anybody
out,
on the lead
which...
lap? Nobody.
Yeah,
4
nobody
tire
on the lead
sets,
lap.
and
Everybody's
this will
in.
be the 3rd tire set they take. So they will still have 1 tire set left. It's not a terrible idea, Nolan. It seems to be the common theme throughout the lead lap drivers, but is anybody going to chance it? Nieto will get his lap back. Nobody on the lead lap prior to the caution is going to stay out. Everybody will have 4 fresh Goodyears for this overtime.
So it's going to be overtime for sure, and yeah, this is just, I'm a bit speechless, just like I was over at the Daytona race when we had that massive pileup on that final lap, as now we're going to be getting ourselves settled into this all over again. I felt bad for Harry Grindell, honestly. Like, he did nothing wrong in that mess, but remember how I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, Dover's a self-cleaning racetrack, so if you're going to go and wreck, you're going to find yourself slide back down the racetrack, and you saw it right there. Connor Horn ended up locking all 4 tires down, but he still slid down the racetrack just enough so Harry Grindell had nowhere to go, and he went on a 4-tire slide straight into the 67. Had Connor Horn not moved on a more traditional racetrack, he would have been fine. Grindell would have had that miss. That's just a classic Dover wreck right there.
Winner of the race off of pit road was Liam Sheen, then Agnell Phillip, then Andrew Phipps, then Grant Davis. What's interesting, Nolan, is taking a look at their box times. I think it was 2 tires for a lot of these drivers. 9.1, 9.4, 9.6, and 8.7 for the top 4. So it was not a traditional 4-tire stop, at least for that first group of people. And how about Joseph Tice jumping a lot of spots there with another 2-tire stop?
Tice is jumping 2. There's a lot of drivers that are on the move now as a result of this one. Cody Harris, the furthest driver up that took 4 tires. He'll start 5th on the inside. Will that be enough, though? It's quite a gamble to take 2 tires on a pit stop. I don't know if I would risk that, to be honest. I mean, Dover is notorious for being bad on tires, so they obviously took 2 right sides. You take 2 left sides here only, you're insane. There's no other way around that one. But I don't know about taking 2 with 2 laps to go. If you can fight like your life depends on it, maybe. I just don't think it's possible.
First driver on 4 fresh Goodyears is Cody Harris. Now, we know that 28 is fast. He was able to get the lead and keep the lead until Liam Sheen got there. This is going to be an interesting one. Lights out on the pace car. We're going back green. There's a handful of wave arounds. Sheen and Phillip on the top 2 spots. I don't really have any more words, Nolan. This is just going to be a very interesting restart. And I think the main thing I'm wondering is Agnell Phillip going to be able to do anything as we go into overtime?
Phillip is in 2nd place with the 2 tires on the outside line. I mentioned Phillip needs a restart, and if he can get that good restart, maybe he'll be able to go for the lead. I think he can do it. Phillip has proven before he's good on 2 tires, so he can make that move for the race lead if he chooses to. He's just got to hope that Cody Harris on 4 doesn't get there first.
First attempt at overtime out of 3 that we have at our disposal tonight. iRacing pace car will make its way into the safety of the pit lane as we get ready to go back to racing. It's overtime in the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series from the Dover Motor Speedway. They hit the Geico restart zone. It's Liam Sheen in control of the field. Green flag back in the air. And is Sheen going to be able to hold on? It's a good start. Agnell Phillip loses a bit of ground on the outside. Andrew Phipps to the inside. Cody Harris makes in contact. Phipps drifts in. Harris is in it. And multiple drivers around. And another yellow flag is out. We'll have another attempt at overtime.
That was frankly clumsy there from Cody Harris. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it, though. I mean, Cody Harris sent it 3 wide on a restart down to the turn number 1. 3 wide is never the wisest of moves. There's nothing that Andrew Phipps could do to get around it. He had Phillip on his outside. You can see Harris go to the inside. He makes it 3 wide, but I don't think he had enough to realistically say that would have been a worthwhile move. And that collected a bunch of drivers behind. The 48 got involved. You saw the 99 get up into the outside wall. I'm surprised that wasn't a bigger wreck, to be honest.
On board with the 48 of Braden Whitaker. There's a big stack up as well. Of course, once he started drifting through the middle of the corner, there's Grant Davis getting involved, and absolutely nowhere for the 48 of Braden Whitaker to do. Just kind of created a massive stopping point on the racetrack. Let's go back, go on board with Cody Harris, because it was frankly a very, very bold move and a very, very confusing move. 3 wide into turn 1, and not only that, Nolan, just a move made so late, I don't think Andrew Phipps had time to know he was going to be there.
Well, even if he did know, though, I mean, what's he going to do? He's got Agnell Phillip pinning him down from the outside, so he can't go anywhere. Like, there's nowhere that Phipps can go in that situation. He's just got to hope that he doesn't get run into, and unfortunately, run into is exactly what he got. Now, though, Cody Harris is on the front row, and he's going to be able to get himself on a fairly solid restart here with his 4 tires. Sheen, again, he's down on 2. So right now, Cody Harris has all the advantage in the world here. Liam Sheen's going to have to get another phenomenal restart here if he's going to want to hold the likes of Cody Harris back. It's worth noting, nobody taking responsibility for that latest incident, but I mean, I can't say this late in the race. I would blame them. That puts you at the tail end of the field on one of the final restarts with a 2-lap dash.
It's the same scenario as Phoenix when we didn't have anybody claiming those late race yellows. But I mean, if you're in the playoffs, you're not gonna claim a caution this late. I mean, yes, of course, everything does go to post-race official review on anything unclaimed. But at the same time, Nolan, with claiming a caution being an end of the longest line penalties, if I'm Cody Harris, I'm not claiming that yellow, because either way, I'm either gonna win the race, get a post-race penalty, or I'm going to be put to the end of the longest line now. And I think I'd rather have the bandage be ripped off in post-race in about 12 hours time than having the bandage ripped off immediately right now.
Still pacing behind the iRacing safety car. Lights still on, and I believe it's 2 to green as of right now, so it's 1 to go. This next time by, I think, at least. Now, remember the restart rules. You get a caution prior to the white flag. We're set up for 1 more attempt. We've got 1 more after this one. And if we get a 3rd caution after that, then we're going to be finding ourselves with a race finishing under the safety car. Now, we haven't had that in a long time, have we? I mean, it's been a while in RSR competition since a race has ended behind a pace car, and I'm really hoping that it doesn't end like that tonight. You can wreck as much as you want on that last lap, so long as you actually make it to that last lap first.
Still under the yellow flag. We'll be going back to green. Hopefully 2 laps time. Should be lights out on the official iRacing pace car this time by. But it's Sheen, Harris, Phillip, Cato, and Lariah through to the top 5. How about Andrew Phipps? Even after that incident, bit of a drifting moment for the number 25. He's still in P6 with Miller, Tice, Flores, and Grant Davis. Even after the damage that he got, he's still holding strong, edge of the top 10. Hopefully he'll be able to make something out of this restart. But this will be attempt number 2 at an overtime restart. If we make it to that white flag, next flag will be the checkered flag, and we will be able to get to the end of this race. If a caution comes out with 2 to go, field will be frozen. However, it is running at the time of caution, and we only have 3 attempts, so it's either this one or the next one will be ending under the yellow flag. We've only had that happen 1 time in 2022, and it was earlier on this season at Daytona. We made it through all 3 overtime restarts, and we ended up ending under the yellow flag. And we are ready to go back underway. It's Sheen and Harris on the front row. Sheen on the inside. He took 2 tires on the 2 cautions ago in the pit lane and leads the way. Cody Harris, the only driver among the top 3 with 4 fresh Goodyears. Kato and Lariah also on fresh ones. Do they have enough time to run for the race win? Geico restart zone, and the green flag is back in the air. Sheen with a good restart. Will it be enough for Cody Harris? He goes up to block. Harris with a bad restart. Phillip down to the inside, gets second place away.
And some contact behind, but we keep it green as one car to scramble down to the apron. Harris just didn't go. I think he spun the tires on the restart. It'll be white flag this time by. They try to just make it around. Well, Cody Harris tries to go wide and diamond it back down low, but so far it's a 2-tire thunder up in front.
Can Agno Phillip win the race that he was so dominant in earlier on through 1 and 2? Liam Sheen onto the back straightaway, looking to return to victory lane in RSR. Agno Phillip, the reigning Full Throttle Cup champion, goes for one last dive in 3 and 4. It's not going to be enough. Harris will finish the podium, but Liam Sheen in the O2 is victorious at the Monster Mile.
What a win there for Liam Sheen. He had to get a great restart, and get a great restart he did. And now Grant Davis will be the last driver to finish up this race, but it is not without damage as Davis got himself turned, entering turn 1 on that final lap. And that caused a bit of a 4-car pileup back in the field, but obviously we'd already taken that white flag, so it was a moot point.
What a win for Liam Sheen. He was fast all night, but a late race charge from that O2 wins him that race in a return to RSR victory lane. And in spectacular fashion as he burns it down, we'll take a look at your full race results from tonight at the Dover Motor Speedway. And it's Liam Sheen that wins it. Agno Phillip and Cody Harris through the top 3. We'll speak to all 3 of your podium finishers in just a moment. Ross Cato, Michael O'Raya, Jeremy Miller, Andrew Phipps, Steve Tucker, Jaron Weinmaster, and Joseph Tice through the top 10, Nolan.
That leaves Joseph Staney down in 11th with Corey Blevins in 12th. Connor Holmes in 13th with Nieto 14th. Whitaker finishes this race out in 15th with Papano in 16th. Fenner Place was 17th. Minazzi Major was in 18th with Grant Davis 2 minutes behind the race leaders as a result of him being wrecked out early. Pergoli will finish this race, the first driver, a lap down.
Back from there, 21st was Harry Grindell, Steve Durham 22nd, Newen Flores 23rd, Sean Kalis 24th, Ryan Dunkelberger will complete your top 25 with Mike Kaczynski, Latero Lamperti, James Ross, Malik Ray, and Zach Roethlisberger all running into issues in this race. Same thing with your final 4 finishers, Josh Ball, Thomas George, Chris Edwards, and Tom Morano. Well, drama on the final lap, Nolan. How about the 48 of Braden Whitaker? A spinning Sam Nieto up in front, hits the inside wall. And right about there from Sean Kalis in the 43. And that is too many flips to count and lands into the pit lane. Unfortunately, not on the gray stuff. He ends up on the lid.
Well, I mean, hey, he crossed the finish line on the racetrack. That's all that really matters at this point. So he didn't get the penalty for an unsafe pit entry there. So kind of lucked out on that one. And hey, it's right next to his pit stall right there. So easy recovery.
Easy recovery indeed, as we will move our way into the post-race show. As your winner for tonight was Liam Sheen, and we won't waste any time. We'll get the O2 up here into the booth. And Liam, welcome back to the Real Sim Racing booth. It's been a long time for you outside of RSR, but a return to form in the Winter Series. Daytona didn't go the way you wanted, but you get the win here at the Dover Motor Speedway and tame Miles the Monster. How good does this one feel returning in your O2 Chevy Camaro?
It feels great, man. You get away from the league and, you get away from like winning a lot. and you know, you start to question whether or not you can still do it. And you know, with the college series race, I mean, I finished good there at Nashville, so I mean, that put a little bit more confidence into me, because usually at the end, towards the end of these races, I, you know, sort of, you know, screw up. So it just feels so great, because I didn't win a race since Watkins Glen in 2021, and you know, our playoffs didn't go good there last year. But then, you know, we had a great winter series campaign with you know, with Freenage last year, and you know, he's not here this year, but you know, hopefully I can be the guy that, you know, steps into shoes and takes his place for this championship here.
And throughout this race, it definitely was not an easy one for you. Started P11, had to climb your way up through the top 10, and then what seemed like a never-ending cycle of cautions being thrown at you, all the way leading up to the double overtime restarts. Was it challenging on the track for you, or once you got the clean air and that splash and go graphics number 02 was all said and done for you, you were able to pull away?
It's really dependent on clean air here. I mean, Agnell got away from me. I couldn't really keep up, because, you know, every time I tried to lay back to get some clean air between us, he would like close right up to me, and he did a great job with that. So I couldn't really back way off to save my tires. So that's how I fell off around like 1.8 seconds. So, I mean, my only call there was a short pit, and then I did short pit, got ahead of Agnell, and I think I'm winning the race from there. But then, you know, we get a, you know, a caution here, caution there, stay ahead of Agnell. That was the important part. And I know Cody had a really good situation with his tires, and I had to go. I had to get any run I could get. So when I got alongside him in the 3, I just went in there as hard as I could. Not like, you know, shove him out of the way, shove him up the track, but I had to, you know, lean on him a little bit. And, you know, I was afraid I was going to get that paid back to me later in the race, but thankfully it's only 2 laps. So yeah, really, it's one of my better tracks on here. So, I mean, I feel great getting this one.
Nashville Super Speedway in 1 week's time. Where's your confidence level at as we go to a sort of half short track, half intermediate, but all very fun for the drivers and for the fans?
I ran really well in the college series there. I mean, I had a, you know, I could have won the race, you know, had the final few restarts went a little better my way, but could have been the only guy to beat Steven Wilson, but it unfortunately didn't end up like that. But I feel really good there heading into that track, and hopefully we can keep the momentum going.
Congratulations once again on your return to form and return to RSR victory lane, Liam. Congrats on the win.
Thanks.
Great to hear from Liam Sheen, a return to RSR victory lane for that number 02. And we continue on with your podium finishers. The dominant driver of the day doesn't get it done in the end. It's Agnell Phillip. Nolan, you're standing by with him now.
Agnell Phillip, it's unfortunately another runner-up to add to the list for you, but you had a really dominant middle and starting portion at the start of this race. It felt like it was really like that caution that came out right at the tail end of the pit stop window that really seemed to kind of do you in there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's just part of it. You know, especially kind of at the beginning of the season when guys are still kind of getting used to each other, and I don't really know what brought it out, but you know, that's part of it. Big congrats to Liam. I know he worked his butt off this week. Me and him were prepping together. I don't know if he talked about that on his end, but he helped me a lot. That I think, you know, that work that we did was part of why I had such good pace out front and was kind of controlling the race there for a bit. So he definitely deserved this one. It was a really good drive by him.
And of course, you mentioned that you were in complete control of this race early on, and even then, with the pace that you had earlier, it seemed like it was such a struggle to try to make up the passes in the later portions, not just for you, but everybody throughout the field. What kind of contributes to the nature of Dover that makes this track such a difficult one to complete and overtake it successfully?
Yeah, I mean, I think the outside line's got a decent amount of pace, so even when in a side-by-side, it's really hard to complete the pass on the bottom and to even get the run. You know, I think dirty air and kind of that turbulent air was really affecting folks, you know, second on back, which is why the leader had such an advantage. And, you know, those two things combined is not a great combination for lots of passing. You know, I think Liam, Malik probably were the quickest on pace in the field, and you know, Malik took a long time to get up from wherever he started to kind of towards the front of the field. Liam kind of, you know, he would make up spots and then kind of stall out. It's just really, really tough when you're, you know, racing against guys who know what they're doing and put their car in the right spot. It's really hard to generate that run and complete the pass when you're working kind of with one hand tied behind your back with the aerodynamics of it all. So you know, it's definitely frustrating when you go from being out front and leading and you know the car feels really good out there and you're like gapping people and you feel really good, and then you get behind a couple cars and you're like, did I forget how to drive or something? I don't know, but you know, at the end of the day, we salvaged a pretty good finish. Hopefully that puts us into the points lead here. It's a good thing it's a season-long championship. That's all I'll say.
We moved from one concrete track to the next one, but it's actually a track that is slower than the one we were at tonight. Nashville Superspeedway comes up next. What's your thoughts as we get set to go racing at the 1.3-mile track at the Music City?
Yeah, I mean, a super cool track. You know, I think I love these concrete tracks in general. I haven't raced a lot on it, and I wasn't particularly good when we were there with the Cup cars earlier this year. So got a lot of work to do. I know. Like I said, Liam and I have kind of made a pact to prep together, so I know he's put in quite a few hours kind of getting ready for the College Series race there, so I'll probably lean on him, try to figure out how to drive that place. But you know, in general, those concrete tracks are just so fun. It's just really rewards. They're interesting to drive, and then they reward kind of drivers who take care of their stuff and are really good technically. So really looking forward to it. Hope, you know, we can put on a good show. If I'm out front, I hope we keep the run going to the end, because that would have that was looking like it was going to play out pretty nice if it did here. But we'll see. We'll try and reset and do well next week.
Thank you for joining us tonight then here, Agno. Congratulations on the second place finish. Hopefully it'll be one better in Nashville.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Nolan.
Zagno Phillip joining us here from the second place on the racetrack, and that moves us down to the driver that was on 4 tires as opposed to the other that was on 2. Josh, it's our third place finisher, Cody Harris.
And 4 tires on that final restart, Cody, or final 2 restarts, I should say, but was not able to get it done. What more did you need out of that number 28?
It just was a little bit tight on the lap right there at the end. I don't know if it was the quick heat cycles or I didn't really get a chance there to get my 4 tires warmed up, where their 2 tires probably had a little heat, and it took a little bit, not quite like the Cup car, but it took maybe to lap 3 before the tires really kicked in. So just needed a few more laps there.
Some good running earlier on in the race as well. Of course, you were able to lead a couple of laps off the heels of the yellow flag that we had in the green flag stops. What can you take from tonight and apply to the remainder of the Winter Series calendar? Still with 6 rounds left to go, and solid running at Daytona and a solid finish of 3rd here at Dover, putting you in a good spot for the points.
Yeah, pretty good. I lost quite a bit of points last week after the last lap incident, but I've got pretty good long run speed. I was matching the people ahead of me, especially the first 2 right before that the green flag pit stop sequence happened. It's going to be interesting to see how the tire strategy was going to work out, because kind of once you got to a certain lap time, they kind of held there, but I was going to be on fresh tires compared to everybody at the end, but I may have lost too much ground. But it'd been fun to see how that was going to play out, and then I just got to work on my short run speed just a little bit. And at the end was also a lot of fun with Liam. We were just kind of trading lap times. I think we were both trying to save a little bit to not completely overheat, because Agnew was right behind us. But yeah, overall it was a good race.
And now specifically talking about the Nashville Super Speedway in 1 week's time, will we be talking to you again on the podium? Where's your confidence level at for that track?
I think I ran pretty good there in the Cup, but this is a whole different car, so I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, good talking to you, Cody. Congratulations on your podium finish tonight, and hopefully we're talking to you again at Nashville Super Speedway in 1 week's time. Congrats again.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Great to hear from all 3 of our top 3 finishers, Nolan, as we wrap up our post-race show with Cody Harris. But with that said, 1 week from tonight, Nashville Super Speedway for the 3rd round of the campaign, and it's going to be a very, very exciting run as we go into the middle portion of the season. 8 rounds is not a lot. We're already getting into the middle portion of the calendar with a very exciting race lay ahead at one of the newest tracks on the racing service, and also one of the most fun and one of the most challenging for these drivers to get right.
Nashville Super Speedway, it shares several characteristics with Dover, the most notable of those being, again, it is a completely concrete 1.3 mile speedway. So that's going to throw up some challenges as well, just like we saw today. Outside lane is going to be a hard lane to contend with. You're going to have a lot of guys that will be struggling to put down passes, but you know that it's going to be just as entertaining of a race as we had here tonight at Dover.
And we hope that you'll join us in 1 week's time on December the 12th, 2022 at 9 p.m. Eastern time for yet another Real Sim Racing IceBreaker Winter Series race. But on behalf of our entire team at RaceSpotTV, on behalf of Evan Pasoko and everybody at Real Sim Racing, and for my colleague in the booth tonight, Nolan Rempel, my name is Joshua Lee, and we thank you for joining us for 125 laps around the Dover Motor Speedway. And we say congratulations to Liam Sheen in the 02 on a fantastic return to form and a return to RSR Victory Lane, who will be able to get it done when we go racing in Music City, Nashville Super Speedway, the home of country music. Find out in 1 week's time as the Real Sim Racing IceBreaker Winter Series roars on.